Hello Flameborn, I want to show you my Mage Wizard build that I have now been playing in a group for the past 70 hours and which helped me a ton to keep up with the content. I focused on the setting stuff and things on fire as my main skill. First of all, yes, Wizard can seem kinda busted because it has some fairly strong attacks. But if you want to play for full damage, you also are kinda squishy, which means you need to do damage to survive. Now to my character, I'm level 25. I've done most of my elixir worlds to get the extra skill points. I'm still missing out a few, but I feel like I'm at the point now in the game where I wouldn't really know where to put them, so I guess this is more or less my final build up to level 25 or rather enemy level 30. I went into the Trickster, Wizard, Healer and Battlemate section, so everything blue basically. Keep in mind that this build is for group play and on top for set rules within the group. If I would play solo with this, I would probably have taken some more of the farming nodes and less of the healing nodes. I took the full Battlemage tree, which would boost my wand damage and usage because of nodes like Arcane Deflection. I was pretty sure wand and staff usage was meant to go together, since the first bigger node gives you mana, which the wand itself doesn't need. I went with Blink and Blink Attack. The Blink Attack creates fire damage explosions when you blink into an enemy. You can blink as much as you want and as much as you have stamina, so that's nice to get through enemies. Then Unity again is to recover your mana. We really don't want to run out of mana in the late game. The last two ones here are helping with wand attacks. One gives you a 30% chance to spawn in an additional wand projectile, which then deals double the damage, and who doesn't like double damage? The other one increases damage if you spam the wand, and let's be honest, that's just how the wand is meant to be played. The next 2 points go into the healer tree, and this is mainly for when you do group play. Technically, you probably don't need any of this in solo play, and I know, yes, the water aura is also nice solo, but it shows its full potential in a group. As a solo mage, you can simply pop healing potions and you would be just fine. I took the savior node, in which I revive an ally faster. Then next, the healer node, which will give me 10% increased healing when I do healing spells. Then the healer 2 node, which will increase this boost again to 20%. Healing revive will let players spawn with 25% health. This is also not bad, especially when you have players that tend to run away as soon as you revive them, before you even manage to heal them. Then Meteor will heal your allies when you die, and it's a good backup, because when the healer dies, then you want to give the group a little extra chance to survive. Now we come to the Necromancer skill. Yeah, skip that. At least in this form right now, it's absolutely not worth going for it. Yes, you have a 10% chance to get a Skull Companion. But most of the time, this thing spawns on the very last enemy and then just sits there and doesn't know what to do with itself. It's terrible at following you, and in late game, it just gets one-shot most of the time. Sounded exciting, turned out to be a flop. And then we jump into the wizard tree. Here we decide over our element we want to use. I decide to go for fire. Fireball is a great and super strong skill early on and will also be our main skill. Arsonist and Pyromaniac boost the fire damage here, and then the wizard gives you more crit chance, which is kinda important. Because the chain hit is a must-have, because when you crit, then a lightning chain will shock enemies around you. Until then, the mage really just does single target damage. And this gives you a little bit more AoE damage. Mass Destruction just gives you 5 more meters in radius, but will only do 2 shock damage in these additional 5 meters. And I wonder if those 2 things stack, so stuff within the inner circle gets 7 damage instead. But either way, this is very essential for how we play. As passive damage, I'm choosing the Radiant Aura. It does 1 fire damage per second per intelligence point I have, so it's scaling very nicely with my damage through the gameplay. Sun Aura then doubles that. Then we use the quick charge node that reduces the charge time on the staff. And as soon as you switch your main weapon from wand to staff, which should be around the time you get your first eternal spell, then take this one. It still is very slow most of the time, but it is much worse before. And then we jump right into the Trickster branch. When you get damaged, you have a 20% chance to reflect 50% of the damage as fire, and you can also trigger other skills with that damage. The Begone skill I only took because I had to, because I want to go into the Terra node, which will stun enemies that are hit by critical hits. You probably now see the greater image of the build. You use the staff and the wand at the same time. Your main damage dealer is the fireball, but the fireball also triggers a bunch of effects that will turn it into a pretty nice AoE attack. I also took the updraft note just yesterday after I was done with leveling everything, and honestly you don't need updraft or double jump. They do make things easier, but I would focus on damage early to be able to beat the content before taking convenience notes. But that's my playstyle. I know others use them as their very first notes. As for buff foods, I will do a better video that explains the foods later on. But I use the glow soup, which gives you 5 intelligence for 45 minutes and shroud protection. And intelligence is directly more damage. In this case, it gives you 25% more magical damage. And then I use the fruit bowl, which is a health regen and stamina regen food. You may be able to skip this and go for a full stamina food, because once you have the water aura running, you don't really need that anymore. But since I specced into the water aura very late, this is my go-to food. And then I take the meat wrap that gives you 5 constitution points and another intelligence points. And these are endgame foods. Like I said, you can substitute the meat wrap with the best grilled meat that you have, the fruit bowl with any berry dish, and the glow soup with either grilled mushrooms or the mushroom omelette. For the gear, I went with the Elder set. It is your endgame gear for now. You can't craft it, but you can find it in the Sun Temple in the southeast corner of the map. Farm it a little to get all pieces. Until then, the Archmage is a pretty good set as well, and the armor you can go before that is the Magician and the Mage armor. Early on, you can for sure also mix and match. The Sage and the Healer armor will especially help you in group play. As for rings, I go with 1 ring of Rapacity and 1 Commander's ring. Rapacity gives me mana regeneration and Commander gives me mana and life. I have seen people running 2 Rapacity, but honestly, 1 gives you all the mana regen that you will ever need. Here you can also see all of my stats in an overview and boost it in case you are interested. For the staff, I mainly use a legendary Shroud Weaver. It's the best I found with additional fire damage. I also have a second one here that doesn't have any additional fire damage, but I found it yesterday and in fact I just wanted to try it out. That's why I carry it around. Wands, I do not have any legendary yet, simply because I couldn't find any. But I have a shock and ice combined one, a fire one and a shock one. The shock ones are mainly for those enemies that are resistant to fire. I can then just spam shock damage until they die. For the spells, I have the chain heal for group play because it doesn't heal yourself. Then I made an eternal light burst to see if it helps me when playing alone and getting crowded, and I'm not too convinced at the moment, so don't see this as a recommendation. Next is the acid bite. I don't use it as often. It's mainly an emergency low distance spell. It does insane damage, but it is usually also your last chance to survive. The main spell is the fireball though, and it's pretty powerful. As a gameplay example, I show you my run through East Lapis. Keep in mind that I am solo and this is a group build, so I need to be a little bit more cautious. Mages in general aren't meant to jump into the action and tank every single enemy. I see this build most of the time as a scout that does a lot of damage. The radiant aura starts glowing as soon as enemies are close. Smaller enemies will be roasted before they even reach you. And then I shoot a fireball into an area that has a lot of chests, boxes and furnitures. Because I'm fairly certain that hitting objects can trigger crit events even through walls, I can see the health bars where enemies might be and how many. That way I can decide where to go. I can also just cast another fireball and kill them. I chose this area now because enemies are fairly fast compared to the early and mid game that is available to us right now, which means I need to be smart on how I use the environment to my advantage. Like I said, I'm not a tank. The acid bite I use in close proximity because usually I don't want enemies to be close. It is basically my emergency spell that does insane damage to get me to survive. For the boss I usually use acid bite because I can't avoid being too close to the boss and my usual staff charges would take too long. Acid bite on the other hand has an overtime damage effect and the wand wouldn't be strong enough. And to be completely honest, you will still die. The better and more aware of your surroundings you get, the less you will die though. And with this build you are also a valued member of group play because you can keep people alive while also clutch in tricky situations by throwing acid bite into a group that gets attacked. One thing I love about Enshrouded is that it's really up to you what to level and why. Many variations are valid playstyles and you can go and experiment with your build as much as you want. Right now I'm leveling a Ranger Beastmaster and I will see where it gets me and if I enjoy it. But what class do you play? What are the skills you don't want to miss out on anymore? Let me know in the comments, and if you have not subscribed yet, feel free to do that now. Thanks for stopping by, stay alive and thrive!